let's face it, I mean, riding dirt bikes is a pretty equipment-intensive sport. There's some key elements, but I think, your helmet and your boots probably, in my mind, are the sort of, the two most key things to get right, to get comfortable in, to have confidence in. So it's kind of been interesting, when you when I think about moto boots, I think about, brands like Alpine Stars and City, primarily because over the last 30 years of riding, not coincidentally, two Italian brands, I would say that 80% of the boots I've ridden in are those, So I've never, but then there is a third Italian brand, Gaerne, and would you believe I've never worn a set, But interesting, I want to say they came out in about 2010, the SG12s, top of the line. I want to say there was a bit of a revamp in about 2016 or so, but they got really popular. And it's amazing how many people said to me over the last couple of years, hey, you really need to be trying some of these, So obviously I like Italian boots. So first ever time I've worn the thing, So I'm sitting here with a business partner, Jared Duffy, who's, funnily enough, actually you bought some boots, didn't you buy them off eBay or something like that 6 months ago?
Yeah, I've been wanting them for ages. They've been on my wish list for a long time, and just saw some pop up on Facebook Marketplace, and they were like half an hour from home. I had a couple of rides old, and old man's worn them for years, and I knew they were a little bit to break in, so I was like, perfect, couple of rides old, they'll be ready to go. Well,
you probably know a lot more than me because I've only ridden 3 or 4 times into things, right? But I think there's some merit also in like coming with a fresh eyes to looking into things. So. For me, because a lot of boots are going down that sort of moulded sole, like a sort of snowboard boot kind of look, So for me, I'm looking at these things like, well, they're kind of classic or old school, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean, like a stitch sole, a one-piece sole, a lot of the protective elements and shape of the thing, are kind of like, from the heyday of like Alpine Stars Tech 8s or something like that. But they've also incorporated a lot of tech. And having worn the things now, I'm super impressed by them. I think, well, let's talk from the start. So break-in was a thing that I noticed, and I think for me, some of these boots, like coming out of Southern California, right? Okay, let's a new pair of boots for a Supercross race. Like you wouldn't want to ride Supercross in a pair of these without it breaking in. So it's about 3 rides, but the good thing for me is it kind of breaks in, and it's sort of in that break-in process, it actually fits you, and once you get it broken in and you get feel for your controls, it sits in that kind of window, I want to say longer, do you know what I mean? It doesn't like sack out because you've got the best out of it in the first few rides. Mm-hmm. What was your take on that kind of break-in?
Yeah, so I thought they broke in relatively quick, but then like I said, I had picked up a pair that had a couple of rides old. But I really like it because there's not a heap of padding inside the boot, but what padding there is around your ankle especially, it's almost like a memory foam. It like develops and kind of sucks around your ankle there.
You know what I felt like, when you're the physio and they do that thing and they pump it up? Yeah. It felt like that, so it actually forms around. So it's not a booty, but it almost felt like that, right?
Yeah, it feels really, really nice and snug around your ankle, and it gives you a feel that and trust that you can go a little bit harder or be a little bit riskier because you're like, I feel like these boots protect my ankles really well.
Yeah, actually we talked about that before because, there's some schools of thought that say an inner booty is like that you can only have top of the line boot can only have an inner booty, but there's a lot of people now saying that actually creates a bit of a disconnect because you've got lost motion and you lose that sort of feel. And I would sort of say I didn't really necessarily feel that, but now having this firm, like you said, memory foam around there, it gives you a real, particularly sort of around this area where, and the grip and how flat and streamlined that is. I would say I kind of I like that better than not having a booty. It gave me a more direct connection with the bike, right?
Yeah, that's right. Like if you look at any kind of modern technique stuff that's really coming out of motocross now, everyone's talking about how key your feet are because they're the lowest point of the bike. And they talk about how much you use your feet and how much you grip with your ankles. And I find these excellent because the space between your ankle and the frame of the bike seems much, much thinner, and you've just got a lot more contact there, and you feel like you can control the bike more, and you got a lot more feel for the bike. So you get a lot closer to the frame without sacrificing any comfort or any protection.
Yeah, gotcha. Mate, I think, the first comment that comes to mind, you talk to anybody about Gaerne boots or the SG12's durability, right? So, okay, that's, I guess, synonymous or a flow-on effect of having that longer break-in process. More protection, a little heavier. I think we weighed one before on scale 2.2 kilos, which is probably just a tad over. like an average boot, I think, but that's symptomatic of the fact that they got a shed load of protection, you know.
Yeah.
So whether you're talking about toe cap, you know, like ankle, heel, like it's just protection's it's as good as I've seen, I think, on any boot.
Yeah, you're right, and the build quality of it too, like they're not sacrificing any durability or the way that it's been stitched, or everything's there to last. So if that comes with a tiny bit more weight, you honestly can't feel it. Like I wouldn't say these are heavy boots in any way, but it makes sense from a durability point of view.
Let's talk a little about, you know, obviously a lot of protection, more break-in, feel for your control. So it's taken me about 3 rides. I think I was doing down to my haunches, jumping on my toes to kind of get that feel, just to try and sort of get a bit of suppleness, you know, in that section. Because, you know, I think in terms of the flex, you know, you've got that flex there, you've got 2 pivots, you've got extra flex, you know, the way it works there.
Yeah.
But a one-piece sole, am I right in saying, it's early days and I wouldn't even say these are fully broken in yet, but am I right in saying that maybe feel for your pedals aren't like you know, there are some boots out there at the moment that are good to go on the first ride and they would have a better feel and probably continue to have better feel.
Yeah, the one-piece sole, unlike something, say like a Tech 10, so my knowledge of a Tech 10 is the sole's made up of 2 or 3 parts. So they purposely put more flex in the toe area, so you got more feel on the pegs, where this is the whole way through. But the downside of doing that is you chew your soles out really quick with the little bit of control that you gain, where these is a one piece. So even if you completely flog your soles out, which takes a long time with these, you can go get them stitched on again.
Any bootmaker.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Other thing I got to say, you know, I noticed the first time I put it on, the light action of those buckles, it's ridiculous how easy they are, you know. It's like there's no secondary, you got to click it down, they're just down, you know. I mean, you tell me, I mean, you've used the buckles more than me, but I haven't had one pop open, I haven't had one pop loose. Every time when you're doing that and you want to adjust that piece of piss, and it's just really, it's a cool system. I know that was, I think, part of the last revamp, that they really, just that super light action, but just reliable, huh?
Yeah, it's almost satisfying, like how good the buckles feel. And as long as you've got like enough tension on your strap, if your strap's way loose, then you're going to struggle to get that buckle all the way down.
Yeah, sure.
But as long as you've got tension,
you don't want a loose strap anyway, right?
No, as long as you've got enough tension on it, it goes nowhere.
Yeah, exactly.
And at no point are you riding around and your buckles are filling up with dirt. Like I remember previous boots I've had, you go out and ride around, you might come in, have some lunch, take your boots off, then you go to put them back on and you can't get them to click down because they're just packed with dirt. Then you got to bang them out or get something in there to blow it out. So they're durable and they always perform.
I guess the other big thing with boots, you know, and it's not really so much an issue with durability, but if you know, replacement parts. So I know that, I haven't actually looked, but I know buckles, lots of little bits and pieces. We've already talked about the sole. So that's another thing, people jump out, you know, they last forever. But if you really need to, you know, get a replacement part because there's something compromised because you've had a hit or whatever. The other thing, and it's interesting because, you know, there's been a bit of a resurgence of, or growth obviously in hard enduro, you know. So again, coming back to that moulded sole versus these things, I've noticed now like a lot of guys are coming back to these, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Largely because you've got a sharp edge there, and if you're walking up a snotty thing or trying to grip on rocks or clambering up a hill or pushing your bike up or something like that. Yeah, big part of it.
Yeah, even the standard ones, like they're not super notched out or anything like that. They're quite flat, but they're still really grippy.
Yep.
And even the metal toe at the front, like if you get something super gnarly, you can just kick your foot in and work your way up.
Yeah.
But like ones like yours, even I put one on my left foot and wore these on the right, and night and day difference with how much grip you've got. Yeah. If you were to do some stuff where you have to push your bike up some slippery fucking shitty rocks, or it would make a big difference.
And funny you talk about these. These are a Graham Jarvis Racing Edition. So exactly the same price. Interesting. I think these are $20 more or so in Europe, but in Australia they've gone same. I think $819. Same across the board with the whole SG12 range. Only real difference here is you've got a little portion of enduro sole. So I was a bit concerned because I know on some other brands where you fit an enduro sole, it looks like a freaking army boot, and then you go to move on the pegs and it's like, I'm stuck, I can't get the brake right. So really interesting, and no doubt Graham Jarvis Legend, has had massive input. I know he's been involved in Gaerne as a brand for a long time. Seen him riding his trail bike and his back wheel through the factory over there in Italy. But yeah, so just the grip there, and I know you were mucking around with yours and these a little bit earlier, and it's actually, I didn't notice at all. So where you're standing on the pegs most of the time, you're not getting stuck where you want movement, but that gives you that little bit of grip, So it's a pretty cool idea, nice design. I like that. I like it as an option.
Yeah.
So yeah, $820. So it's at the top end, like you can be paying $850, through sort of $900, $950 even for some other brands, top of the line boots. So, this is up there in that range. My take so far, is, and from what everybody, what I'm expecting is it's going to last forever, right? And that sort of money is going to be money well spent.
Yeah, that's it. That's the way I looked at it. And it's almost like a bit more of an investment. Like you can go pick up a boot that might be as comfortable, nearly as protective, but it's not going to last nearly as long. So you're paying a little bit more for that, but if you get twice the life out of your boots, then it's going to come back full circle.
Yeah, which is kind of coming back to my old school classic boot mentality, the design. You live with a pair of boots for maybe a season or two. For the average rider, it's not obviously riding all the time, because you're not wanting uber grip on the pegs, and wearing through a set of, soles in a couple of months,
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. No, look, really good to get your feedback, man. And it's kind of cool when you test a product and what you're thinking, gets sort of confirmed by somebody else. But it's amazing just how many people said you got to give these a whirl. So really glad I did. Looking forward, and I think that the real test is going to be when they come into their own, when they're fully broken in, but actually how long these things last for. So I'll see if I can run these as my sole boots for as long as I possibly can, and see how long we can get out of the things.
Yeah, they're impressive things.